top 5 Loki moments in the MCU. What's your number 5? We're getting a lot of Fattaport lists today.
My
The
number
Fattaport
5
list episodes.
is when Thor, Banner, and what's her name?
Will?
The no Valkyrie.
Oh, Valkyrie. Okay.
When
Oh,
they're
we're in
on, when they
Ragnarok.
are, Ragnarok. When they're on Asgard and Loki and everybody comes to save like whoever's left in Asgard. I think that's number 5.
Oh, the your savior is here when he's on the
Wait,
ship.
okay, wait, no, never mind. I fucked up.
Oh,
That's my number 3. My number 5
oh,
is in the movie Thor Ragnarok. I think that this is kind of like a funny thing, not really like a power thing, but when Thor and Loki do get help off the elevator,
I had that on my list.
I thought it was funny enough. That's my number 5. I thought it was a good moment because it kind of shows that like he's like, well, at the time he wasn't trying to work with Thor, but like at that point you thought he was. Because then, like, he goes, like, he tries to betray him, and then Thor is one step ahead. But
I think we've busted that out before. Get help.
have we?
Have we done that one? We're never
Probably.
doing get help again. I definitely had that on my list. Loki. So between Loki and Ragnarok, Loki the show, Ragnarok the movie,
Mhm.
what is the better like version of Loki? Just like who did Loki better? The show or Taika Waititi or in the movie?
I think the show did
Okay.
it better because it shows, like, at the beginning of the show, like the first episode, when Loki scrolls through his life and sees what happened to him, it's kind of like when the flip switches. Like, there's a couple moments in season 1 where he tries to betray who he's working with, but in season 2, there is no single glimpse of him turning back to the old version that he was. Like, he's all doing this just for like the
Yeah.
benefit of life around him and not for himself. And that's
Mhm.
what I like the most, because I like how they've like the contrast of how he acted in the Infinity Saga to now, even though it's like two different versions of Loki. It's the same type of storyline, and I just like how the show did it. How they made him win. It was first time in the MCU where he wins.
You've got Loki and Ragnarok where he's not necessarily bad guy Loki yet, but he's not good guy Loki yet either.
Yeah.
And by season 2, Loki, season 2, Loki is definitely Loki is a superhero. Like, if we're being honest, because like you're saying, season 1, he's still there's, I guess, finding himself or whatever. Like, he's still wandering around with the variant. He's still
The
developing his
last
relationship with
two
Mobius.
the last two episodes are superhero Loki of season 1. The first 4
Yeah,
are still like normal Loki, like he'll pretend to be on your side, then either try to betray you or disappear.
but Ragnarok is obviously one of the funniest
Yeah.
MCU movies, so Loki
A
goes with that.
100%, 100% one of the funniest. I like to rewatch that one for fun sometimes.
And we already know there's another Ragnarok moment coming up, but there's one in
I
between
know.
them so far. So what's number 4?
Number 4 is the first Avengers movie when he takes Hawkeye
Okay.
hostage.
Mm.
At the very beginning with the Tesseract, he takes the Doctor hostage as well. I think it's just badass.
Is that the first Glorious Purpose scene?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
then in that whole
So we get the
sequence where
iconic line.
they go, I think it's Berlin where they end up, and he like steals that guy's eye just right from his body in the middle of that like
Yeah.
museum. Like that whole movie is just badass Loki, and it's
The
villain
muse
Loki, but it's badass Loki, and that's what I liked about it.
the museum sequence into the, I said Neil into the old
Yep.
man. There's, Loki's like he hits him with some line about,
Yeah.
there's no, there's always guys like you, and there's some deep meaning there. But I had that scene down as well too, where he does all that. But is there like a truck chase after that? He gets like he like enchants Hawkeye, gets Selvig, and then is there like a chase
Yeah,
scene?
and as because the Tesseract starts to collapse the building, and they're trying to escape like the rubble and everything
Mm-hmm.
out of the because they were chasing Maria Hill, or Maria Hill was chasing them, and they were
Is
shooting back.
Coulson there too?
Coulson,
It's all the Shield guys, yeah.
yeah, all the Shield guys, as like everybody was trying to get off the compound.
What did you say your number 3 was?
My number three was when they arrive in Asgard during Ragnarok to save other people. It was like their
Okay, when they
savior
save
has,
all the
yeah.
people.
I thought, yeah, like that was like his first like official like act of like good
Yeah.
for his character. And I just think that kind of like leads into like why in the Loki show he did what he did, because he had already realized that what he did in his life before was like didn't do anything for him. And now that he starts to do
Mm.
good, it actually like helps him out and the other people around him.
It is funny that the Loki that is sitting at the end of time is obviously I mean, it's not the Loki. It's not the Loki that was in Avengers.
Hmm.
So is that kind of a good thing then? Kind of in a way
In a way, yeah.
where, like, I don't know. Can you have the guy? I guess because did he do all? I guess he still did all that stuff, right? He still did the
He
battle
did,
in New
yeah.
York. I
He's
guess he still
the
technically did that.
he's like the version directly after the Battle of New York, but like the switch up from that type of
So
villain
all the good
to
stuff, basically.
what he did good for the TVA was just so quick.
Yeah, and I think that's what that scene in front, when he's watching his life back, is supposed to
Mhm.
be all that stuff, kind of in
And
that
it
moment.
worked. I mean,
Yeah.
exactly what the purpose of showing him that is exactly what I wanted to happen, and it did.
The whole sequence from the bridge too is really cool because you get the Hulk fighting the wolf there
Yeah.
in Ragnarok. You get a full strength Helena Heimdall in action. They save everybody, and then when they're in the when they're in the ship after work too, and you get Korg,
Yeah.
Asgard. It's gonna, hey, it's fine. We can rebuild. It's gonna be beautiful. This is what happens. Forests burn
Boom.
down and then they grow back, and then everything's just
And it's just gone.
yeah, it's just gone. But that was your number three. What's your number
That's
two?
fine. My number two is actually it's kind of morbid, but it's him dying in
Oh, which one?
uh in Infinity War.
I had that down
And
too, of
my
course.
reasoning for this being number two is because if he does not die in that situation, Thor will not kill Thanos. Like
At the end, yeah.
his whole reasoning for the hatred he had for Thanos and everything like in that movie, how he was able to get back to him at the beginning of Endgame and kill him was because Thanos killed his family and his brother. And I
You
don't
know,
think without like that motivation that doesn't happen.
and we talked about most shocking moments too when the Victor Timely thing happened. And I don't I don't know if it was shocking, but it was definitely, surprising. I don't know what the right word for it was, but taking Loki out that early in the movie, and this was again right after Ragnarok, where you finally have Loki doing his first good guy thing at the end of
Mm,
the movie on the ship, saving these people. And I don't know if they had the Loki show say like queued up at that point, and they had the hey, we know we're gonna bring this guy back, we're gonna turn him good, like he's gonna get the full force thing.
yeah.
But in the moment, doing that was, I mean, that it definitely set the tone for the movie. Like you're saying, the motivation as well too gives Thor his motivation. But
Hmm.
the right away, just like, oh, we're anything can happen. Like we could do
Yeah.
anything. Loki's dead, Heimdall's dead, and then they end it with Thanos just winning the whole thing.
It was, and then for Loki at that point in the timeline, it was the first time he tried to betray somebody other than his brother. Because like he tried to like
Else,
befriend Thanos and like tell him he needs a guide, he has experience on Earth. All of a sudden, he kneels to his god, and then he reaches up, tries to stab him in the neck.
he's so close too.
He got close.
He
Obviously, it was
really
never
was
gonna
right there.
happen, but it was close.
I don't know if Thanos let him get close. Thanos could have stopped him early. He's got the stone.
Yeah.
Who knows? What stones did he have at that point?
He
The
had
Power Stone in space?
he only the Power Stone, and then the Space Stone is what they had come to.
Well, he gives him the Space Stone. That's what he stops him with.
So the Power Stone they got off of Xangard
Mhm.
because they already had destroyed that. That's the name of the place, right?
Power Stone. They definitely go to Xangard at one point.
Yeah,
That
that's
might
no, because
be.
the first stone he gets is the Power Stone from
Mhm.
Xangard. And then he goes to Loki to get the Space Stone because we find out he's had the Tesseract with him this entire time. And then that's what he ends up killing him with.
Don't kill us for
Well, I guess
not knowing the names of all the planets. We'll
I think it
go.
is it is Xangard, isn't it?
Is Xandar where the collector is at?
Xandar. No, the Collector is on Nowhere.
He's on Nowhere.
Yeah, Xandar was the place in the first Guardians movie where the bounty fight happens between Groot,
Mm,
Rocket,
okay, yeah.
Gamora, and yeah, and that's where they take the Power Stone back after that
Hmm.
battle, and then they keep it guarded, and Thanos wipes out the entire town and takes it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right, we got that
So
figured out.
Loki dying number what when how else does he die? We get the Thanos death.
He dies in the first Thor move. No, in Thor: The Dark World, he dies when they're fighting Malachi. Dies.
One of them he falls off the bridge. He falls off the Rainbow Road. And then the
Um,
other, the one where the Frost Giant kills him, I think, if I remember correctly, because I was rewatching a bunch of the Loki stuff, trying to, go back through the moments.
yeah.
I think he stabs the Frost Giant from behind, and then the Frost Giant just like turns around and grabs Loki and just pulls him into the blade,
Oh,
and then takes
what
Loki
movie
out
is
that
that
way.
from?
But I don't remember if that's the first or the second. I don't
I
remember which
think.
movie each of those were from.
Frost Giant would have been. Well, the Dark Elves was the second one.
So that might have been the second death. Yeah.
So yeah, because the
So
the second one was when they were fighting Malachi, and like he sacrificed himself to save Thor, and then Thor kills Malachi,
okay, yeah, yeah.
and then he like they have like last words, and then he just like takes his last breath and dies. But it was just
Hmm.
like a cloned version of himself.
And then I guess he doesn't die in the Loki show. Just sacrifices himself to its own throne.
Yeah, and then
Hangs out
in
for eternity.
Ragnarok, Thor thought he died when Hela. Uh,
When Hela broke him, yeah, sent them all
yeah,
off into the
but then
whatever,
they both ended up in
back on the same planet.
yeah, whatever that's called. Wow, we are not great when it comes to planet names.
We got it down. It's just the Marvel geography. It's
Yeah,
just the
there's
Marvel
a lot of them.
geography.
There's a
It's
lot
the
of them.
names. We're movie guys. We're not, comic book
I'm
guys. We're
not
trying to cross over
geography.
here.
Yeah, I'm not a.
Yeah,
I'm not
we're
a
not Marvel geography
historian.
guys, unfortunately. We'll get Fattaport some Marvel sources here in
Yeah.
the near future. Drum roll, please. Your number one, the best Loki moment. Have we had a moment from the show yet?
This is the last moment of the show, last moment of
This is
season
it.
2, when he sacrifices his freedom for the TVA and the
Mm,
timelines. I think it's the most selfless, like good thing that like superhero thing he's ever done when it comes to like his like full life in the MCU and his half life when he gets to the TVA. And I just think it sums up like the start to finish of his character perfectly.
better. Is it fair to rank sacrifices? Better sacrifice Iron Man, Loki.
I think
Iron Man gives up his life, but Loki's gonna be bored for a long time.
I think Iron Man's sacrifice was good for where the MCU was at the time. But now that there's multiple timelines, multiple lives, and they're trying to protect everybody's life, I think Loki's is greater
Yeah.
because it's hard because without either of those sacrifices, there's nothing.
Mm,
Like Thanos was wiping out the entire world, and the timelines were disappearing without He Who Remains.
yeah.
So they're tied. I think Loki covers more ground because there's multiple timelines. So I
Shout out
guess
to Iron Man though.
he's like a footnote above Iron Man.
Iron Man hanging with him. But did you like visually how they did that? Because I mean, I get we've been dealing with comic books the whole time,
Hmm.
but up until this point, it's still been pretty. I want to say I'll say realistic. Like I mean, Captain America's pretty grounded. Iron Man, I mean, like we're talking, crazy robotic suits. Even Guardians, like we're still
Yeah.
talking aliens at this point. Like the MCU didn't have a multiverse in the Infinity Saga. It was still
Hmm.
one universe, aliens, other planets. But I mean, now they have to visualize like whole timelines. And Loki himself is just, I mean, he's so powerful. I mean, he's going back centuries, just consistent looping, time involved. Like, just the scale of the comic book stuff they had to bring to the screen. Did you like how they pulled that off?
I did. I thought at the very end when he was like pulling all the timelines together and like tying them together to be able to hold them and like be able to sift through them. I was
Mhm.
confused on what it first was trying to like do, and then I realized it's like, oh, those are all individual timelines that he's throwing together to be able to hold together and rule, or not really rule, but like be like in control of, I guess.
He really cranked up the acting for the grabbing the
He
timelines.
did.
He was really going for it. One
I wonder
last
what that looked
Loki.
like post edit or pre edit. I wonder what that looked like.
Yeah, what was he grabbing onto? Maybe we don't want to know.
Pause.
Who knows?
Yeah, those weren't
It,
timelines, baby. Those were some.
you never know with Loki. It's a little bit of both sometimes. Season one, but do you have any honorable mentions?
um.
I have a list if you want to hear a list real
Yeah, let's hear
some
it.
honorable mention. I think you definitely hit in terms of importance. Pretty much
Hmm.
all the big important ones. Him disappearing with the Tesseract,
Yeah.
just in terms of things that it kickstarts, kickstarts the entire show. That wasn't my number one, but in terms of again things that important moments. But the just from Ragnarok, the Loki play when Thor comes back to
Yeah, he
Asgard,
acts like, and he thinks he's like acts like Odin. Yeah.
a Matt Damon Loki.
Matt Damon Loki was pretty good.
So the Loki play. I think, first Avengers, the puny god scene with Hulk, where you got Hulk throwing him around. I don't think that's a good scene for Loki, but just in terms of
That was
iconic
funny.
scenes that
That
Loki was in,
was
I mean,
yeah.
that's the number one. You get the payoff as well in Ragnarok when Hulk's throwing him around, throwing Thor around in the ring. I think that is this Dark World when he turns into Cap and starts
Yeah.
impersonating Captain America.
Yeah, in the castle.
I can feel the righteousness surging. You want to have a rousing conversation about truth, and then him when he finds out. So after the battle, this is in the first Thor, they're on the frost giant planet or whatever. Finds out during one of the battles that he's a frost giant
Hmm.
himself. Goes back to Asgard, confronts Odin about it, and while he's yelling at Odin, basically just yells at Odin straight into a coma. Puts Odin straight into Odin's sleep.
Yeah.
Odin just honks out right while Loki's like, "I'm adopted," and Loki's like, "What?" Odin's like, "What?" And then and then he's down. So Loki yelling Odin into the Odin sleep. You said honestly, basically everything else. When he visits Thor in prison, and then Korg comes running in, piss off, Ghost. Not really, not really a Loki line, but I also had down fine Asgardian leather, and I don't even remember what that's from, but there's some scene.
Oh.
Rich Corinthian leather? There's some scene where somebody's messing with this thing. This one might be the number one, but Loki actually being DB Cooper for playing hijacker, or not playing necessarily hijacker, but
Oh,
season
yeah.
season one, the only case of air piracy where the guy never got caught, DB
Yeah.
Cooper, turns out it was Loki, which makes sense because if you look at the stats, like it's basically a 99.9% chance you get caught. So either this guy died or is actually Loki and just slipped away to Asgard in his fine Asgardian leather after that. But also when in Avengers, when they've got him locked up and then Thor comes to visit him, and it's actually like Loki, it's one of those like fake Loki things that he's got going on, and Thor like charges at him after the doors open and just like goes to tackle Loki and falls right through him. And Loki's like, "Will you
Oh,
ever not fall for that?"
yeah.
Like Thor basically being Gronk will never not be funny. Thor is basically Gronk
Yeah.
in the MCU, just the meats head superhero. But shout out to our
Meathead
guy. What a
superhero.
run.
A great
What a
run,
run with
honestly.
Loki.
He became a likable, very likable character at the end.
Yeah, honestly, one of the best. And you said top 5 character arc, but just in terms of quality as well, too, in the property itself. Like
Hmm.
the Loki show, I mean, put that up against anything the MCU's done so far. The Captain America trilogy. I think maybe in terms of that's probably the best trilogy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that or Guardians.
I think probably
Because
Captain America. I think Captain America is a better trilogy. Those last two movies were just so good.
and then Loki, the show, those might be the top three just isolated, Marvel stories that are the best.
Anything that the Russo brothers directed, and then the Loki show.
The Avengers stuff kind of goes without saying because it's Avengers,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
single character stuff. Also, season 1 of WandaVision, super underrated.
That was so good. I don't understand the hate that it gets.
I went back, I go back and rewatch the first couple episodes all the time. Good time.
Once I finish the What If series and the timeline sequence, I'm on WandaVision. So